If you're not paying your credit cards off, you are paying high monthly fees, fines, really. It's a monthly fine for not giving them their money back. They lent you money, you did not give it back. There's a penalty for that. And in some cases, it's upwards of 20% or more. Here's why it's so important to pay that off. You have to be a very good, educated investor to earn over 20% on your money. So, like, if you invest $1,000 and you earn 20% on that, you are doing way better than the markets have on average for the last 4 or 5 decades. Hey, what's up? How are you guys doing today? Welcome back to our podcast. This is podcast number 12. Doesn't seem like we've already done 11 of these, but I hope you guys are enjoying the podcast. And today I'm going to be going over a subject that I'm getting requests on. So I'm getting questions throughout the week, throughout the month on things. And it's a good topic, and it's a topic that maybe I've just overlooked because I went through these steps so many years ago. I've kind of forgotten that at once upon a time I had some of these same questions. So today we're going to be going over how to set up an investment account. So an investment account is different than a bank account or a savings account. This is actually with a financial firm, and where you can make investments. You can buy shares in publicly traded companies or funds so that you can get your money working for you. So welcome to the Freedom Factory, guys. If you don't know what this podcast is all about, there's one mission here, and it's to move you and your family forward. Like, the Freedom Factory is all about creating freedom for people so that they can go make the choices that they would prefer to make versus financial choices or time choices they have to make just to be paying bills and being stuck kind of in a rut. And so that's what this is all about, getting you guys out, doing the things you want to do, how you want to do it, when you want to do it, and as much as you want to do it. So first of all, I'm going to say this again and again and again. This is not financial advice. I am not your financial advisor. I'm not telling you what to invest in. I am simply maybe just entertaining you a little bit, and maybe telling you, well, I will be telling you some of the things that I've done, but I'm not making the recommendations for you. Okay. I'm not licensed to do those things. So first of all, there's 3 things I'm going to cover with you today. I'm going to cover what you need to be doing before you're investing. Secondly, I'm going to cover your first step of allocating money towards a fund. And then thirdly, how to invest. All right. So number one, guys, and listen, everybody is ready to start investing, right? I have so many people ask me, I've got $10,000. What should I invest in? And then I ask them, well, are you out of credit card debt? And they're like, well, no. And I'm like, well, let's not stop the conversation here, but let's stop the investment conversation. Here's why, guys. If you're not paying your credit cards off, you are paying high monthly fees, fines, really. It's a monthly fine for not giving them their money back. They lent you money, you did not give it back. There's a penalty for that. And in some cases, it's upwards of 20% or more. Here's why it's so important to pay that off. You have to be a very good, educated investor to earn over 20% on your money. So, like, if you invest $1,000 and you earn 20% on that, you are doing way better than the markets have on average for the last 4 or 5 decades, right? On average for decades, it's been about 10%. And most people are ecstatic with 10% because it's outpacing inflation. If you can make I'm talking fast today, aren't I? I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good today. Um, if you can make 10% on your money, you're making more money than the cost of living or the increase in cost of living. Normally, there has been some years recently where the cost of living has gone up more than 10%. But if you're making 20%, you're doing really, really well. Well, why would you be investing money? And if you're not really good, you're not going to make 20% when you're paying more than 20% out in fines because of credit card debt. So number one, guys, you can't even think about investing until you've wiped out your credit card debt, all of it. Now, if you're paying off your credit cards monthly, completely different story. My wife and I have a lot of credit card debt every month, but then we wipe it out every month. And we've done that for a long, long time. And if you're strategic about that, I should do a podcast, but I'm not the expert in it. There are people that do the credit card dance so that they get all these points and flights and hotels. Really, really cool. We dabble with it. In fact, we just booked some flights last night with points. Really cool. So there are ways to use credit cards effectively to grow your business and get some perks, but you got to pay them off every month. Okay. So guys, pay off your credit cards. Another thing that's going to do is that's going to set the discipline necessary for investing. A good investor doesn't just throw $5,000 or $10,000 at something here and there. A good investor does something called DCA, dollar cost averaging, meaning on a daily, weekly, monthly, some time frame, like at the same day of the week you're investing or the same day of the month you're investing, because you are allocating money. You're putting money aside. And I've told you a minimum, I've already told you on one of these podcasts, I don't remember the episode, a minimum of 10% of your income should be getting set aside for allocation, whether it's paying off debt, putting money towards the rainy day, or investing. Okay. And so just make sure that you are getting the mindset and the discipline in order to be successful in investing. And so critical that you get rid of that credit card debt. And part of that's going to be that you're going to probably have to change your lifestyle a little bit. Like if you've racked up credit card debt, it's because you let your eyes and emotion buy things versus thinking through the financial impact of that decision. And that's not good, because emotion and money, that's a bad combination. Okay. So we're going to pay off the credit card debt. Number one. Number two, said this before, but I'm going to say it again. You have to have money set aside for the rainy day, the emergency fund. Okay. You never know when the air conditioner is going to break. You never know when the car is going to break. You never know when someone's going to get sick. You just never know. And I want you to have at least 6 months of living expenses set aside. At least 6 months. I'd be happier if you had 12, but at least 6 months. So whatever you're currently spending every month, and I'm not talking about like baseline, like the way you're living now, whatever you're spending, set aside 6 months. Some people would say, well, oh yeah, if things get tough, I can cut back on this and cut back on that. Well, here's what's going to happen. If you cut back on those things, it's going to make you unhappy. And if you're unhappy, your posture changes, your attitude changes. And if your attitude changes and your posture changes, and I'm not talking about your physical posture, I'm talking about like the backbone, your emotional posture in business, you become less effective in business. You become emotional. You become desperate. Okay. So no, we're not going there. And that's part of the reason why you've got to have at least 6 months set aside. Okay. Now, when you set that aside, I told you in a previous podcast that, and I even gave you the link. I gave you a link to a savings account, an online savings account. It's Goldman Sachs, where you can still get over 4% return on your money. I set an account up. I tested it. It was so easy, so seamless. Go back and look in the podcast if you want that link. We've got a deal set up there so that you know you're in the right spot. You hit the link. We will give you a welcome message there with my name on it, and you know you're in the right spot. So step 2 is get that account set up, and then make sure you've got 6 months living expenses in that account. Okay, now we're ready to invest. Okay, you've paid off your credit card debt. You got 6 months sitting on the side. Now you're ready to invest. And here's the beauty. Once you've got the 6 months, think of a bucket and water. Like you've been pouring water in this bucket, and now the bucket's full, right? Well, the next step is to get a bucket underneath that, and we're going to keep pouring in that bucket, but now it's going into the next bucket, right? So if you've got the 6 months set aside, let's say you're putting 10% every month, 10% every month of your earnings, and now you've got the 6 months set aside. Well, once you got the 6 months set aside, you now have this habit, you now have this discipline of setting 10% aside. Now you simply just take the 10%, and instead of putting it in your high yield savings account, now you start putting that 10% in your investment account. Okay. So that's where the money is going to come from. But here's how it's going to happen. You're going to reach out to, and I'll tell you, I use Charles Schwab in the United States. I'm not telling you you have to. I'm telling you that's who I use. There's a number of reasons. They, pretty big firm, really big firm. They have a lot of features that I like. Their commissions are fair, I think. And Charles Schwab has over 380 physical locations around the world, mainly in the United States and the UK, but 380 like locations where you can open the door and walk in. Okay. So I like that. There's 2 within 60 miles of me. There's one about 20 miles from me. I can walk in there. I like that. I did really like that in the beginning before we had the ease of mobile banking. But that's another thing with Charles Schwab is I do a lot of stuff right from my cell phone. I can monitor accounts. I can make trades. I can do all of that. I can move money around with Charles Schwab and my cell phone. So I'm not telling you have to use them, but that's who I use and why I use them. Okay. If you're in Australia, one of the biggest ones in Australia is Commc, Commsec, Commsec. That firm in Australia, much like Charles Schwab, big firm. Yes, there are commissions, but they have a lot of flexibility. They have a mobile app. And with that firm, you can buy global stocks. So if you're in Australia and you want to buy some US stocks, no problem. And I would say that has to be the case. If you want to get in investing, you have to be able to buy US stocks. And here's why, guys. The richest companies in the world are in the United States, the biggest ones. And you know their names. They're Google and they're Apple and they're Tesla. I mean, the Amazons, they're all US based companies. So you want to be able to have access to US based stock. Okay. So another one in Australia is something called eToro, eToro, no commissions. But I don't have any experience with them, but I know a lot of people use those guys. Okay. So here's how the process is going to work. You are going to have to open an account. You can do this online. You do not have to go into a physical location, but you simply go on to the website and put in the information that they're asking. And of course, they're going to be asking for all the same type information that your local bank would, a legal name, an address, your identification number, like your social security number, your tax ID numbers. They're going to be wanting all that identification because they have to report to the IRS, right? And that's why we're investing to earn money. And when we earn money, we also owe taxes. So you've got to give them all that information. Yet it doesn't take a really long time to set the accounts up. I think all of you can probably have an account set up online within about 15 minutes or less. Now, the next thing is you have to fund the account. And that's where I like the physical location type thing, because at first I was really nervous about this type stuff. So I went to the physical location and I old school. Now this is over 20 years ago, right? I gave them a physical written check. I know that might be funny for some of you that, us old timers used to write on pieces of paper and write a check out. But for some people, that's still what you want to do. You want to go see a person. You don't trust moving money online. I get it. Eventually you'll warm up to that. And I think eventually you probably need to get used to that, because that's where the world is going, is online banking and moving money that way. So you're going to have to fund the account. Like with Schwab, you can fund the account by handing someone a physical check. You can actually mail a physical check into the address they tell you to mail it into, or you can do it online. You can wire money in. That's what I did when I opened my Schwab account. But of course, I've moved money online. If that freaks you out, I would say do it anyway. Okay. If you're not doing things that make you nervous, or if you're doing things that make you nervous, I like that. If you're not nervous, then it means you're in a rut and you're stuck and you're doing the same things you've always done. And that's probably why you are where you are. And you're probably not listening to this podcast because you want to stay where you are. You're probably listening to this podcast because you want to make some progress. You want some freedom. And so in order to get freedom, you're going to have to do some things that are new, and new things are scary. Okay. So if you've never wired money before, wire some money, but just wire a little bit. Wire $20, wire $50. Yes, the wire fee alone is probably going to be $20. Like, you might think that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard, Brandon. Like, why would I wire $20 when the fee is $20 to wire? So it's going to cost me $40 to wire $20. I'm telling you, if you've never done it before, paying $20 for the experience is cheap versus messing it up and wiring a couple $1,000s to the wrong place. Okay. $20 is cheap insurance to just kind of test the waters. In fact, every time I open a new account or I'm moving a lot of money, I always make what I call a pre-wire. I'll wire a few $1,000s before I wire the big chunk of money. Okay. Just safe practices, especially in the cryptocurrency world, guys. If you're moving cryptocurrencies and it's a new wallet, please, please, please do not wire or transfer a lot of money to a new wallet or a first time wallet without testing it out. Make sure your numbers are landing correctly. Okay. So you're going to have to fund the account, right? So now once the account is funded, you're going to have a waiting period like a normal bank. It's probably going to be at least 3 days, maybe upwards of 5 days or more, that they're going to hold your money unless you've wired it. Okay. Like if you give them a physical check, they're going to hold it. And even if you wire funds these days, sometimes they're holding that as well. It's crazy. Whole nother topic. But you guys know, if you go to your own bank right now, let's say you got $100,000 in the bank and you go to your own bank right now and you ask them for $50,000 cash, you're not getting it. They're going to tell you they don't have it. They're going to tell you you have to set an appointment for that. And then they're going to ask you a bunch of questions. It is wild, guys, how banks are working. All the more reason why you need to be listening to this podcast, because this podcast, we're going to help you get in control of your money instead of other people controlling your money. We're going to have you in full control of your money. All right. So the account's been funded. Now you've gone through your waiting period. Now your account is ready to trade. Now, another reason why I like Schwab, and I'm not telling you to use them, I'm just telling you I use them and why I liked them in the beginning, is I didn't know what buttons to push. I didn't know how to actually execute the trade. So with a firm like Schwab, or find another one where you can use a account manager or someone in customer service to do the trade for you. You can tell them, this is the company I want to purchase stock in. This is how many shares, and a share is what the cost of the stock is. You can buy one or you can buy as many as you want normally. And depending on the price of the stock is what the commissions will be and how many you can buy and yada, yada, yada. Okay. So I like being able to have a human in the beginning for you to help you execute the trade. If you feel like, no, I don't need that, then fine. That's great. And listen, there is so many, just go on YouTube. I'm telling you, like a lot of your questions and things you can learn is through Google and YouTube. I mean, just put the hours in. But at the beginning, use an expert in-house. So go to Schwab, call them, tell them the company you want to buy, tell them how much money you want to invest. Like I got $500 and they'll say, well, with $500, you can buy X amount of shares. Okay. And then they will say, repeat it back to you. They'll say, okay, we're buying this company. This is the ticker symbol. The ticker symbol is usually that abbreviation. You need to know that when you're buying the stocks. And this is how much you're wanting to spend, and this is how many shares you're buying. Yep. Okay. Then they execute it. And then when you're online, you can go and watch that happen. Someone has to buy those shares or sell them to you, right? We don't get to buy anything unless someone's willing to sell to us. And so when it's executed, you will get a notification, emails, all that saying your sale has gone through and now you own X amount of shares. And then congratulations, you are now an investor in a publicly traded company. And hopefully you pick the company that's going in the right direction. And so this episode's not going to be about which ones to pick. We'll do another one about that specifically. But I will tell you, do not invest in companies that are not on the cutting edge of technology and where trends are going. One thing you may want to do is watch for a while. They call it paper trading. Go ahead and open the account, but you don't have to necessarily start investing right away. Open the account, and why don't you pick 10 or 20 or 50 companies that you want to track and watch inside those investment accounts that you can watch what the stock is doing, if it's going up, if it's going down. And I would suggest you do that. Create a watch list of favorites so that you can watch what stocks are moving up, watch which ones are going down. And I've always had good success by looking and watching companies that I am purchasing their stuff. Like if I'm using their stuff and I like the service or the product, it's a pretty good idea that some other people are too, right? But like, don't invest in a typewriter company, right? In fact, I don't think there's any out there. Like at one time, Kodak was a very powerful company, but they refused to move away from actual camera film. They didn't think the digital picture world was going to work, and now they're out of business. You know, once upon a time, Blockbuster was the only way to watch movies if it wasn't at the theater. Blockbuster is gone. So I'm just saying, don't invest in companies that are moving in the wrong direction when it comes to trends and technology. Okay. Just ask around, ask the people who are doing well in investments, and then start studying quite a bit. So that is how you set up an investment account. It would make me so excited for you guys to tag me in some posts if you're invested. Show me what you're doing. Tag the Freedom Factory. Tag me. That would just mean the world to me, and it'd be awesome. So I hope you guys follow this advice. Get rid of the credit card debt. Get your 6 months in savings account set up. Then start investing. And by the way, as we wrap up this episode, it would mean the world to me and the Freedom Factory if you share this out with people. So take a screenshot of this podcast, put it in your stories, tag me in it. I'll give you a shout out. And I think pretty soon what we're going to do is we're going to start giving away some money for those of you that are doing that. For those of you that are taking a screenshot, tagging me, putting in your stories. When you tag me, I'll get notified. Our team will grab that notification, and we're going to start giving away some money for those of you that are fans of the show. And I really appreciate it. So this is all for you guys to gain financial success. This is all for you guys to get some financial freedom. And so I hope you enjoyed this episode of the podcast, and we'll see you guys next week for episode 13. See you later.